But Donald, they point out that even though you're a very smart guy, this is a very dumb thing to do.
The year is 2025. The world watches as two of its closest allies, the United States and Canada, become locked in a bitter trade war. The conflict began with the US imposing tariffs on a range of Canadian goods. This aggressive move was met with swift retaliation from Canada, which announced its own set of tariffs on $155 billion worth of American products. The Canadian response was immediate and significant. $30 billion worth of tariffs took effect right away. The remaining $125 billion were phased in over the following 21 days. The message was clear: Canada would not be bullied on the international stage. This marked the beginning of a tense standoff between the two North American economic giants. This sudden eruption of trade hostilities sent shockwaves through the global market. Businesses on both sides of the border braced for impact as the reality of a prolonged trade war set in. The conflict brought uncertainty and raised concerns about the future of the closely integrated US-Canada economic relationship. The core of the disagreement stemmed from US allegations about unfair trade practices and security concerns. However, the Canadian government vehemently denied these claims, arguing that its actions were justified and in line with international trade rules. This set the stage for a protracted battle, with both sides digging in their heels and refusing to back down. Canada refused to accept the US tariffs lying down. The Canadian government took its fight to the international arena, launching formal challenges through the World Trade Organization and under the USMCA, the trade agreement between the US, Canada, and Mexico. Canada argued that the US tariffs were unjustified, protectionist, and a violation of international trade rules. They maintained that the tariffs were based on flawed premises and would ultimately harm businesses and consumers on both sides of the border. The WTO and USMCA disputes became key battlegrounds in the trade war. These legal challenges were not merely symbolic. They represented a strategic move by Canada to defend its interests on a global platform. By invoking the mechanisms of international trade law, Canada aimed to demonstrate the legitimacy of its position and put pressure on the US to reconsider its actions. The WTO and USMCA processes were expected to be lengthy and complex. However, Canada expressed confidence in its legal arguments and remained committed to pursuing all available avenues to resolve the dispute fairly and achieve the removal of the unjust tariffs. A point of contention in the trade war was the issue of border security and the flow of illegal fentanyl into the US. The US administration pointed to this as a justification for its tariffs, alleging inaction on Canada's part. Canada, however, firmly refuted these accusations. Canada asserted that it had been proactive in addressing US concerns about border security. They highlighted their ongoing efforts to combat fentanyl trafficking, including a $1.3 billion border plan. This plan encompassed investments in advanced technology like AI and imaging tools, as well as increased personnel, drones, and helicopters for enhanced surveillance. Furthermore, Canada emphasized its commitment to collaboration with US agencies in tackling the fentanyl crisis. They pointed to concrete results such as a significant 97% drop in fentanyl seizures between January and December, the appointment of a dedicated fentanyl czar, and the designation of 7 major cartels as terrorist organizations further underscored Canada's resolve in combating the drug trade. Canada also highlighted its substantial investments in strengthening intelligence sharing and coordination with US security agencies, allocating $200 million for this purpose. They argued that these actions clearly demonstrated their commitment to border security and addressing the shared challenge of fentanyl trafficking. Section 4. Supporting Canadian workers, domestic measures to counter trade impacts. As the trade war persisted, the Canadian government recognized the need to provide support to its workers and businesses caught in the crossfire. They announced a series of domestic measures aimed at mitigating the negative economic impacts of the tariffs. One key element of this support package was the expansion of employment insurance benefits. This aimed to provide a safety net for workers in industries adversely affected by the trade dispute, offering financial assistance and support during periods of unemployment. The government also pledged direct support to businesses, particularly those in sectors facing significant tariff burdens. To safeguard against potential opportunistic behavior during the trade war, the government implemented measures to prevent predatory takeovers of Canadian businesses. This step aimed to protect Canadian companies and industries from being unfairly targeted or acquired at a discount due to the economic pressures created by the trade dispute. The government's domestic support package reflected its commitment to standing by its workers and businesses during this challenging period. By providing a combination of financial assistance, job security measures, and safeguards against hostile takeovers, Canada aimed to minimize the economic pain caused by the trade war. Section 5. Seeking Global Solidarity, Canada's Diplomatic Outreach. Recognizing that the trade war with the U.S. had implications beyond its borders, Canada actively engaged in diplomatic efforts on the international stage. They sought to rally support for their position and build alliances with other countries that shared their concerns about the U.S.'s protectionist trade policies. Canada found a natural ally in Mexico, which was also facing trade tensions with the U.S. Both countries experienced the brunt of the U.S.'s aggressive trade approach and found common ground in advocating for a rules-based international trading system. Canada and Mexico increased their collaboration, sharing information, and coordinating their strategies to address the shared challenges posed by the U.S.'s actions. Beyond North America, Canada reached out to key global partners, emphasizing its commitment to free and fair trade. They reminded the world that Canada was a reliable and predictable trading partner, contrasting this with the U.S.'s unpredictable and often unilateral approach. Through these diplomatic efforts, Canada aimed to build a coalition of countries that supported their vision for a more open and cooperative global trading order. Canada's international outreach was not limited to government discussions. They also engaged with business leaders, academics, and civil society organizations around the world, making the case for a rules-based trading system and highlighting the dangers of protectionism. By building bridges and fostering understanding, Canada hoped to create a more favorable environment for resolving the trade dispute.